Okay, so hi, how's it going? I wanted to talk about Mariah Carey in this book. I wanted to talk about her memoir, The Meaning of Mariah Carey. Okay, so yeah, I love Mariah's memoir, The Meaning of Mariah Carey. I found it relatable in a lot of ways as a biracial, strong story writing. Clever and funny at times, but yeah, I found some room for critique. But yeah, it's, you know, her book, her story to tell. It's also very serious and distressing with some of the experience she had, especially as a child and in her first marriage. So yeah, she went through some things that were traumatic and damaging for her. But yeah, I definitely wanted to talk more about my experience as a biracial and biracial experiences in general. So yeah, I'm going to be taking a look at Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey has the spotlight right now. So yeah, if you don't know about Mariah, she is one of the most successful recording artists and singer-songwriters of all time. She's of mixed ancestry. She is Irish on her mom's side, and then she's Afro-Latina and African-American on her dad's side. Some people say she's multiracial or a quadroon. Her Mariah, her dad's side is mostly Afro-Latina, and then they have some admixture a ways back. She's also one of the most beautiful women of her time. I mean, like, I guess some people out there aren't going to agree with me, but yeah, that's just me. So Mariah's mother is an opera singer, so yeah, she inherited her mother's love for music and artistry. And I've seen where people were like, they didn't tell that Mariah was biracial. They just thought she was like a white woman or maybe Latina or something like that. When I was a kid, I legit thought that she was black. I just thought that she was a light-skinned black woman. I actually remember I was fighting with my friend Elizabeth because she was saying, no, she's white, and I was like, no, she's black, and she's actually biracial. But yeah, when I was a kid, I was a little bit confused because we have the one drop rule in America. So yeah, some African Americans are like confused about identity. So yeah, and I was taught the one drop rule, so it was weird because even though I didn't see myself as black, I would see like Mariah Carey as black. So yeah, I mean, it's understandable that people wouldn't tell that, you know, she's biracial because she is very, very ambiguous looking. When I saw her and heard her singing, I just thought, you know, it sounds ethnic. You know, I just thought she was light-skinned black person. One of my friends when I was a kid, her name was Michaela. She was black. She had two black parents, but she had like the complexion of like Vanessa Williams, and then she had blue eyes. And then her voice was like Mariah Carey's. Not Mariah Carey's speaking voice. Her speaking voice is like really kind of deep and a little bit raspy, but more like her singing voice. Her talking voice was like Mariah Carey's singing voice, just like this, the effortless, lazy, dreamy tone that Mariah Carey, you know, an element that she has to her voice. That's kind of how, you know, she talked. So yeah, I was a little bit confused when I was a kid. This was like when I was 7 and 8 years old, but you know, now I know she's biracial. She's half black and half white. But yeah, anyways, Mariah is one of the first singers I remember becoming aware of. I think her music video for Honey was the first one I remember seeing, and I love the music video, I love the song. I also remember that Butterfly music video and song, and yeah, I really loved it. Some of my earliest childhood memories. So yeah, Mariah Carey, you know, definitely played a role in my childhood. she somewhat gave like a picture of what maturing into womanhood would be like. I also remember My All being, one of the first songs I remember hearing. So yeah, Mariah Carey holds a special place in my heart. Her songs are some of my favorites. They're definitely 90s classics, very nostalgic. Dream Lover, Always Be My Baby, Fantasy, One Sweet Day. My mom had a couple of her albums. She had Music Box, Butterfly, and then that Number One's album. So yeah, I remember hearing Emotions, Dream Lover, Always Be My Baby, Fantasy, Butterfly, I Still Believe, Sweetheart. Very nostalgic for me. It's very like 90s. I didn't grow up listening to her debut album or the Emotions album, which was her second album, so that's a little bit before my time. I did go back and listen to them when I was a teenager, and yeah, I thought they were great, but yeah, I didn't get the nostalgia from it. I love nostalgia, but yeah, I try to get the nostalgia from it, and yeah, it's a bit reminiscent of like the 80s and early 90s. I thought a lot of her music sounded very mature and a bit drab. When I was a kid, she did have some younger sounding songs, like Dream Lover, Fantasy. They're a bit younger and hip, and like Hero. The albums I had myself of her when I was a kid was her Rainbow album and the Charm Bracelet album, which, yeah, I remember seeing, heartbreaker music videos, catchy, up-tempo pop song. But yeah, I remember listening to like Petals and Bliss from the Rainbow album, and Yours and I Only Wanted from the Charm Bracelet album, and thinking the sound was very mature compared to other music out there. And I remember my friend Michaela, she was a couple years older than me, she reminded me of Mariah Carey with her look and sound. I remember her saying, oh, she hated Mariah Carey. She had an older sister. My friend Michaela had an older sister, and she had posters of Mariah Carey. And I was just like, oh, Mariah Carey. And she's like, I hate Mariah Carey. But then, yeah, when, Heartbreaker came out, we all had the album. She had the album, and I think it's because, it was a more poppy, hipper sounding song. But, looking back, later on in my teenager years, I was definitely able to appreciate that mature, drab sound, once I grew out of like Britney Spears and NSYNC and everything. And yeah, I think that quality of the younger Mariah was really special, and it was, something that made her unique. Okay, so now let's get into the book. Here's some pictures of Mariah's family when she was a child. So I have the paperback. The cover is Little Mariah. So yeah, I love the preface here. It says, "My intention was to keep her safe, but perhaps I've only succeeded in keeping her prisoner. For many years she's been locked away inside of me, always alone, hidden in plain sight before masses of people. There's significant evidence of her in my early work. Often she can be found looking out of windows, dwarfed by giant frame, barefoot, staring at an empty rope, swaying from a lone tree against a purple dusk sky." So that's the Vision of Love music video. "She's been scared and alone for so long, and yet through all the darkness she's never lost her light. She has made herself known through my songs. Her yearnings heard over the airways or seen on screens. Millions of people know of her, but have never known her. She is Little Mariah, and much of this will be her story as she saw it." So yeah, that's a preface to Wayward Child, which is the first section of the book. So yeah, I'm going to be going over the things that most interested me in the book and things related to being biracial. So yeah, spoiler warning. So yeah, let's get into her story here. So yeah, the first section of her book is called wayward child. So yeah, Mariah starts off the book with her childhood and lets us know it's from the perspective of her as little Mariah, saying it's little Mariah's story. So she starts off with memories of her as a 2 or 3-year-old, and yeah, memories that far back can get glamorized, they can get exaggerated. So she tells some stories of what she remembers. So she starts off with a story that was around the time before her parents officially divorced. So she would have been 2 or 3. Humans can remember back to 2 years old, but you know, prior to 3 or 4 years old, memories usually aren't accurate, so it kind of gets embellished like a dream. So yeah, she recalls a story of her, so she tells a story of her father and her older brother getting into a fight and the police coming, and there needing to be 12 police, you know, there to stop the fight. So, you know, normally 12 police aren't gonna respond to a domestic violence call. So, you know, who knows exactly what happened. So yeah, there's probably a grain of truth in that, but it's just getting embellished, just because, you know, that's what sometimes happens to memories from, you know, very early childhood. So yeah, she talks about the dysfunction in her family as a child, her brother, her sister, mother and father, her parents' divorce, her troubled brother and sister, and where these troubles could have stemmed from. She talks about the racism that her family went through in the 1960s. Her parents being an interracial couple and having biracial children. She talks about some terrible things that happened to her family, and her father being ostracized, and her mother being disowned by her family for marrying a black man. So yeah, this left Mariah feeling like lost and unsure of herself. She talks about wanting to be a famous singer from the time she was a little girl, and how her voice gave her meaning and purpose in life when she didn't feel like she was worthy. That's really interesting. Like, I never really wanted to be famous. Like, I'm not really talented at anything, you know. I guess I'm like good at music. Like I played the flute, but yeah, that's something that I practiced at and worked at. But yeah, it was definitely a struggle to find meaning and purpose, you know, as a young person. But I didn't really think of these things prior to adolescence. Mariah also talks about her fascination with Marilyn Monroe and how Marilyn Monroe was one of her aspirations, and how she related to Marilyn due to her unstable childhood. And Mariah tells this story that I liked, where when she was a little kid and she was living in, you know, a shack, as she called it with her mom, was basically a old small house. How, you know, one night she was just walking, you know, the halls in the house, and she saw the light from the TV coming from a crack in the door from her mom's bedroom. So yeah, she just peeped in, and her mom, you know, she was laying down and she was watching a special on Marilyn Monroe's life. And then that's when, you know, she first heard of Marilyn, and that's when, you know, her fascination first started with her. And her mom bought her Marilyn Monroe posters and a Marilyn Monroe book. I like this story because it reminded me of my childhood, because I did that a number of times. You know, I would just crash the bedroom, my mom would be watching something on TV, and I'd get into it. Like, I remember all sorts of things. I remember the movie Norma Jean and Marilyn. I remember crashing in with my mom and watching that movie. So, but yeah, I was never a big fan of Marilyn Monroe. I was never really a big fan of any celebrity. Like, what celebrities did I like? Like, I like Mariah Carey. I guess Britney Spears, Lindsay Lohan, but I was just a normal fan. Like, I wasn't like really obsessed or anything like that, you know. So yeah, she talks about things that traumatized her as a child and feeling like an outsider, like in school, feeling like an outcast. And yeah, a lot of people can relate to that, you know, biracial or not. But as a biracial person, you know, society already gives you baggage, and then you have people piling on top of it. She also talks about her sister who was into drugs and prostitution, and alludes to saying her sister tried to set her up with a pimp. I think it's up for interpretation though, but Mariah seems sure that that's what was going on. Though Mariah's sister is like 8 years older than her, I think. So yeah, it seemed like she wanted to get Mariah in on the same bandwagon that she was on, like drugs and prostitution. She also talks about her relationship with her mom, and yeah, I think she nailed it. And she says here, ours is a story of betrayal and beauty, of love and abandonment, of sacrifice and survival, relationship full of contradictions and competing realities. And yeah, I see this, you know, a lot of the time with biracials, where they have these sorts of fractured relationship, you know, with their family members, you know, estrangement, things like that. And yeah, there's biracials that don't relate to these sorts of issues, and that's totally fine, and they have, you know, their story as well. But, you know, just because you come from a family where, you know, things work out good doesn't mean that everyone else does, you know. It's sometimes like people who come from, you know, perfect families, you know, who come from families that don't have much issues, have a hard time, you know, understanding these sorts of things. So yeah, Mariah talks about not feeling conditionally loved. She talks about not having familial love. She also talks about this later on in her book regarding her mother, where, you know, she's trying to do things for her mother, and, you know, she recalls a story where her mother is, you know, she's drunk, and then, you know, she just flips out, and she's talking about how her son, Morgan, is the only one that she loves, like implying she doesn't actually love, you know, her daughters, Mariah and Allison. So, yeah, and Mariah actually wrote a song. It's off of her Glitter album. It's called Reflections. And, you know, the lyrics, you know, it's supposed to go with the movie, but it kind of seemed personal to me. So yeah, I'm thinking maybe she could have been, you know, getting the inspiration from that song, not from the movie, but maybe from, you know, her own personal experiences based on, you know, some of the things that she explained. And then she goes into how she didn't really feel safe or protected as a child, and she gives a couple of examples of that. And she talks about her mother being poor and not providing well for her as a child, as far as like food, clothing, housing. Like, she seemed to have insecurities about like not living in a big house or having a lot of designer outfits and clothes. And Mariah also tells a story where she's in the car with her mom, and her mom makes a scathing comment. She says, "You'll never be half the singer I am." So yeah, people could look at that and think, you know, where well, there's different reasons she could have said that. Well, you know, there's different reasons why Mariah, you know, could have took it a certain way. Mariah seems to place a lot of value on material possessions in her book. Like me, I didn't grow up in the biggest houses. I didn't have the richest parents, but I guess they did what they could do. I don't see a reason to complain about it or hang on to teenage insecurities. So section 2 is called Sing Sing. So this section is where she talks about working toward a record deal as a teen, which I found interesting, and then her meeting Tommy Mottola and being signed to Columbia Records. In this section, she also talks about her troubled marriage to Tommy Mottola, who was head of Columbia Records and also her boss. So I'm going to talk about the issues between Tommy and Mariah. So yeah, she talks about how she felt controlled in her first marriage and like a prisoner. unable to function on her own or even leave her house on her own, and being followed by security guards everywhere. So Mariah says her image was fabricated to sell records, but on the other hand, she said she always thought she could be more famous if she had more control over her image and her music. So it seems like to me that Tommy and Mariah got married for the wrong reasons, and it was a toxic situation. So Tommy and Mariah became infatuated with each other not long after, you know, Tommy discovered her. But yeah, more seems like he was kind of treating her like a prized possession. You can kind of see this in photos of them together where he's always kind of gripping her. So according to Mariah, she married Tommy because she thought that Tommy would change his controlling and possessive behavior if they were married, and she didn't see any way out of the relationship. So yeah, Tommy and Mariah were first infatuated with each other, but then Mariah grew unhappy with the relationship not long after. I believe she felt trapped for different reasons, and I think, you know, Tommy definitely played some role in that, but it was also a business situation, as Mariah says, so yeah, it was difficult for her to get from under him. So according to Mariah, from the beginning, Tommy tried to wash the urban off of her and to smooth out her image and musical sound, making them sound more general and mainstream in her words. So she thinks part of this was to make her appear more white. So yeah, Mariah says she wasn't being herself at the beginning of her career. She wanted to be a bit more loose and a bit more rough. It doesn't appear at the beginning, but she grew to that point. At the beginning, she seems to kind of be on board with, you know, with the direction that was given to her by Sony. So with her music and everything, she believed that her demos were better than what the album came out to be, her debut album. So yeah, her demos were very good from what I heard. I'm not sure if they actually were the demos, but yeah, is it something you want to listen to over and over and will stand the test of time and sell millions? I don't know. So apparently this is the demo for Someday. I'm not sure if it really is, but yeah, I think it sounds really good. So yeah, she has Tommy Mottola, she has Sony pulling the strings of her career. So yeah, it's Tommy's job to develop successful artists and sell records. I think he did, you know, his job. So yeah, Mariah is on contract with Sony Music. So yeah, sometimes on your job you have to present yourself in certain ways. I mean, that's just life sometimes. But, you know, she's Mariah Carey, a superstar, so, you know. In her book, she talks about how she started hanging out with rappers. She was doing a remix for Always Be My Baby with Debrat and Jermaine Dupri. So she talks about how, you know, she went out with Debrat and it was a huge issue because she didn't have any security guards with her. But yeah, Debrat was telling her, you know, this situation you're in with Tommy is wrong. You know, you should be able to go out and, you know, you should be able to, you know, do things that you want at your own discretion. So, yeah, that's how that went. So Mariah also admires Debrat because she's in touch with her little girl spirit, and then Mariah was always trying to hide hers. So, yeah, I don't see anything wrong with the image that Tommy helped Mariah cultivate. You know, like I said before, when I was younger, I did think that she came across as very mature for her age and compared to other artists. But that does seem like it was the influence from both of them. But the thing is here, I'm sure that someone telling you how to be, how to act, how to dress, how to sing gets old fast. I think I would appreciate, someone giving me some pointers when I was 19 or 20. Sometimes it's hard to see yourself from the outside or see, how you can improve yourself. But the thing with that is that people start going too far. Like, you give them a step, they take a mile sort of thing, and, start trying to control you or guide you in ways you don't want or agree with, try to change things about yourself you might not have a problem with. That can be a dehumanizing, overwhelming experience for sure, for Mariah, with fame and everything else she has going on. So yeah, Tommy and Mariah having issues with each other in their relationship and their business. I think they're taking each other like the wrong way. So Tommy seems to find issues with how Mariah presents herself and certain things about herself. And Tommy seems to be getting mad at her for it and being abusive towards her for it. When maybe these issues could have been stemming from, somewhere where she needed support or therapy or maybe mental health treatment or something like that. And Mariah seems to be framing this as some sort of black and white issue or racism. So Tommy doesn't agree with certain ways Mariah wants to present herself in a business sense. And then, he's also trying to exert control over how she conducts herself from day to day. So yeah, it is a controlling situation. It is abusive, and it is a toxic situation going, from the beginning. When, I first, heard about Mariah's first marriage, and that she was married to someone much older than her, who was, her boss, I just felt like it was wrong. It didn't seem like it was, a situation that Mariah should have been in when, she was that young and he was that much older than her. But yeah, he seems to have pursued the relationship, trying to fix someone, according to him. And she's getting into the relationship so that Tommy, would calm down his controlling behavior, according to her. So yeah, those aren't reasons to get into relationships with people. But yeah, let's look at Mariah's end on this. So yeah, like I was saying, Mariah seems to frame these issues she was having with Tommy as like a black and white thing. So yeah, according to Mariah, Tommy wanted to wash the urban off of her from the beginning. He would tell her things like she looks too urban with her hair straightened. And I mean, yeah, as a woman, there are certain things we can do with our hair and makeup, certain hairstyles, certain clothing and styles that can make us, look our best. But yeah, sometimes you don't want to do the same thing every time or whatever. So the way Mariah takes it to mean is that urban means black. The way I see it, urban can mean any race. To me, I guess it means like unrefined behavior or, a certain aesthetic, like. But I've seen white, Hispanic, Jewish people that could, fall into this category, I guess. That's not particularly an aesthetic I'm drawn to. I love the city and city vibes, but urban sounds more of like circumstances that you grew up in that maybe weren't the best. So yeah, he's telling her she looks too urban in a negative sense. But yeah, if someone told me I look too urban because of a hairstyle, like, what does that even mean? Yeah, I would find that rude. Also, Mariah would say that Tommy would try to control the way that she dressed, and he didn't like her showing much skin. I think more of what it is that, like, I remember that Tommy didn't like the first take for the Vision of Love music video. He thought it was, too sexy. So apparently she was like wearing lingerie or something like that. I mean, I don't really think that's about showing too much skin. I think that's more about what looks nice and appropriate. But yeah, Mariah's saying things like her 90s image wasn't good. I don't really see anything wrong with her 90s image. Like, what, she doesn't like her auburn curly hair? See, that's, one of the things I don't get about Mariah. She throws herself under the bus, she humble brags, Like, I don't see anything wrong with the 90s outfit she had while she was married. They look suitable for the music she was singing. I mean, I guess there were like a couple that I thought weren't the greatest, but definitely for the most part, I think her stylist and everything, they did a pretty good job with her image. I mean, I think there was like, one or two instances, like I remember from her Daydream tour I was watching, like they would have her wear like this trench coat. I mean, to me it seemed like a bit much, but she still looked fine. It wasn't that off. And yeah, Mariah always looked very beautiful, and Mariah, she's very beautiful. She has a great figure. People, I've read some reviews and people are like, why didn't she talk about her plastic surgery? To me, it doesn't really look like Mariah had much, if anything, done, honestly, as far as, major things. People talk about, nose, breast implants. I think that's more to do with just aging and weight gain. People are saying, people say, oh, well, she had a nose job. So I look at, when I'm looking at images of her, I can kind of see why people would think that, but I still think it's some sort of illusion. Image compression and technology changes through the years, with different angles and things like that. Yeah, it just looks like illusion, weight gain, contouring makeup, angles, lighting, and it looks like she's a bit bloated from the 90s. That could be genetics, medication side effects or something like that, or alcohol, or even just, weight gain. People can put on weight differently. Even with me, if, I take a couple pictures with my friends, same day, same hour, and some my face will look oval and others more round, and, there's distortion with the features as well, because like, if I get moved back further away from the camera, my features will look smaller. My lips will look thinner, my nose will look a little bit smaller. If I get up close, my nose will look a bit more than it actually is in person, and then my lips will look a bit less from further away, but then they'll look fuller if I get up close. So yeah, there are, camera distortions, going on, things like that, depending on, what sort of camera it is, what make and model, things like that. So yeah, that's just how that goes. So yeah, some people's face structures are just more susceptible to, being affected by different things of, being on camera or whatever. So yeah, Mariah's appearance seems to change slightly throughout the years. That just looks like it's down to, camera illusions, different makeup and hairstyle choices, aging, weight gain. I mean, even, before fame, you can see these sorts of things. Like Mariah as a backup dancer, for some reason her nose looks small, in 1988, when she was, 18 years old or whatever. And then, at her debut, for whatever reason, her nose looks a bit bigger. This is just probably down to camera being used, angles, lighting, optical illusions, so yeah, that sort of thing. Okay, so now let's talk about Mariah's music and her issues with Tommy and Sony Records. So yeah, there's also Mariah's music. So her Mariah, she always wanted to be more R&B, but she felt like she was pushed more mainstream pop ballads and such. So yeah, she wanted to put a rapper in her Dream Lover song, but Sony didn't agree to it. So yeah, I'm not really a fan of rap. I don't think it has to do with being black or not, or having a rough life. Like Mariah said, she had more in common with rappers because she had a rough childhood. Like, I don't relate to that line of reasoning at all. Like, other black artists like Vanessa Williams, Toni Braxton, Whitney Houston, like, they never really had rappers in their songs. They never really did, like, hip-hop. So, like, does that mean they're not acting black or something? Or, like, Oprah, she had a pretty tough childhood. Does that mean, she's supposed to prefer rap music or something like that? Like, I really don't get it. I don't think rap or hip-hop is a good image for black people. There are some, rap songs that I found catchy. I can get a bit more into female rap that is, a bit cheesy, I guess. But I never bought a rap album. I was never interested in a whole rap album. I just don't think that music about degrading women or exploiting women or about criminal activity or abusing substances, I just don't think that it is good, period. I've seen people say they like gangster rap as if it was like funny or something. I didn't really think much of it. It seemed kind of like a joke, I guess. So, and these are people like from good families, grew up in the suburbs, and then I've, seen people that are actually from the inner city that, don't like to listen to rap music. So yeah, I don't think it, correlates to being black or how you grew up. So yeah, Mariah said she grew up listening to R&B, and that hip-hop and rap music is music that she enjoys. I think, that's more of what it comes down to. One of the main things here is that Mariah Carey is arguably one of the best vocalists in the world. She has, one of the greatest voices. So it's not like I just have something against rap or hip-hop music. Like Doja Cat, like, she does rap music, and I think it, it works for her and it suits her. But somehow with Mariah, it's like, you're one of the greatest vocalists of all time. And no shade to other artists, they do what they do, and, what works for them. But, really all Mariah has to do is just sing and move around a little. Like, she doesn't need any bells or whistles and things like that, is what I'm trying to say. Like, everyone has their own lane and things that work for them, get in where you fit in, Mariah seems to veer towards trends, I guess. And like, Mariah seems to like to do like the ditzy act, like Marilyn Monroe, which is, an act. It's not, a real person, which I'm not a fan of. I was never really a fan of Marilyn Monroe. To me, it doesn't seem healthy. It doesn't seem likable. So yeah, I don't think I would have liked the song Dream Lover as much if there was a rapper in it. And Dream Lover is one of my favorite songs. It worked okay in the late 90s, like with the song Breakdown, they made it work out okay. But even with songs where, I think it worked out okay, maybe there was something missing on the song, I'm still like, why add the rap? But yeah, she made it work, but she also changed her entire image pretty much. So maybe it's some sort of insecurity. Like I remember Mariah saying her mom would always criticize her live performances, so it's like she doesn't think she's enough on her own. And yeah, Mariah's written her songs to be really hard to sing. They're written in a high key, and her voice is pretty deep. But yeah, I guess that's just, her style that she likes. But yeah, sometimes on her live performances, she does come off like it sounds a bit flat. Now, part of that could be the input from technology as well. Like, my voice will sound different if I get in front of the camera. If I get behind the camera, I sound more nasal, like, or if I make a video with my cell phone, I sound different. I really don't know what my voice actually sounds like. It's technology for you, but sound compression, things like that. But yeah, I really like her ballads like Love Takes Time, I Don't Want to Cry, Butterfly, My All, and I Still Believe. But she can always write her songs in a lower key, if ballads are a problem. Songs like Close My Eyes, 4th of July, Petals, Sweetheart, those aren't written that high, and there aren't any belts, yeah, I would be cool with that. I would think it would be fabulous, and I would buy her records. But yeah, the last album I had from Mariah was Charm Bracelet. I had the album when I was a kid, basically. Yeah, now it seems like she wants to appeal to the youth. Yeah, I don't really listen to Mariah Carey these days. I just listen to her old stuff. That's the direction that she wanted to go in, and she can do whatever music she wants and whatever she likes. But yeah, that's just how I see that. So yeah, per Mariah, this was something that she pretty much always wanted to do in her career. Some people think she went off in this direction from being abused and controlled by Tommy, and she went the other way. She was trying to go against Sony. So maybe some political thing, I don't know, some situational thing, trying to get inspiration for her career, clout for her career. But it's odd because in her book, Mariah tells a couple of stories. So she talks about how she doesn't date rappers, and then she also tells a story how around her Charm Bracelet album, how she was hanging out with some rappers or something like that, and they were speeding in a nice car or something like that, and she was talking about how she didn't feel safe hanging around with rappers. And I'm just like, well, why does she feel the need to include that as a part of her life, a part of her career, but yeah, in her book she's like, I don't date rappers and I'm not that type of girl. So yeah, I don't know what she means by that. So Columbia Records did develop another artist. Her name is Samantha Cole. I think they tried to fashion her out of like Mariah's early 90s sound, something they wanted more for Mariah. And yeah, I thought her album was pretty good. It could have been better, but yeah, she didn't do very well. So yeah, maybe Mariah was right with, the change in music trends. I don't know. But yeah, Mariah's early work, her songs are really difficult. She not only has a belting, she also has the melisma. Yeah, she said in the beginning, she pushed her vocals to the extreme because, she's trying to make a name for herself. She's trying to be successful. But eventually, she did develop some vocal damage. But yeah, she wanted to, tone it down a bit. But yeah, Mariah's tried different singing styles. Her debut, she's kind of like singing in her lower range, which more matches her natural talking voice. Daydream era, she's like singing up in her high range, which, you know, is very pretty. And then with Butterfly, she's like singing in her mid-range. Now she seems to be singing in like the girly register. Yeah, you know, like Britney Spears. She sings in like the baby register with the baby voice. For Mariah, it's easier for her to sing in her higher range with, you know, some of the vocal damage that she's had. So yeah, that's why she, you know, changed up her singing styles. Okay, so now on to acting. I think Mariah could have talked a bit more about this, because she was in a couple of movies. I think it was like Wise Girls and The Butler. She pretty much only talks about Glitter and the movie Precious she was in. She won an award for. But yeah, in the book, Mariah talks about how Tommy didn't want Mariah to act. So in her book, Mariah said, you know, she talks about how she always wanted to just be a famous singer and actress, you know, like her icon Marilyn Monroe. But Tommy wouldn't allow her to take acting classes. I guess maybe he thought that was an ambitious goal for her, like she would be spread too thin, you know, because yeah, it does seem like it takes a lot of energy to sing like that. But yeah, you know, he really had a hold on her. So yeah, the issues with Tommy and Mariah, you know, in her book, Mariah says she never wanted to get married. She never wanted to have kids. But she ended up married to Tommy. She thought she would be with Tommy forever, but she felt scared and trapped in the situation, almost like a hostage, basically. In the relationship, Mariah said it felt like she had like a strict father who ruled with fear. The marriage did end up being her way out of the relationship, and you know, the horrible and dreadful way she thought about it. She thought of it as if she had no agency and she had to marry Tommy because she didn't see a way out of the situation, and the business aspect, you know, probably played a big role in that. She saw the marriage as something like she had to do, even though she didn't want to. And yeah, I've seen women with this thought process, especially from like the Black community, with very young women and teens, where they think they have to follow a man's lead, they have to have sex with a man if he wants. There are certain things that they have to do to be good or worthy women. Like, they don't understand they have agency, they can say no, they don't have to be entrapped in these situations. So Tommy did not see Mariah in this way at all. He did not see Mariah with this sort of thought process. He seemed to think the relationship was more mutual. Tommy more seemed like he went into the relationship with the frame of mind of being like a father figure. Like, he wanted to give her the things that she missed out on when she was, you know, that Mariah missed out on when she was growing up, which isn't like the worst thing, you know, but, you know, Mariah, she's just over here, she's a scared, fearful young woman, which is, you know, understandable, the situation she was in. I don't think it was all Tommy, it was just, you know, like the whole situation. But, you know, these things, it's difficult for these, you know, things to work out because there's so many individual differences between people where, you know, these sort of situations seldom work out seamlessly. So, yeah, bad situation for both of them, especially for Mariah, because, you know, the situation she was in, the way, you know, Tommy was trying to handle it, you know, it was abusive. It was just abusive for Mariah. Then the last two sections, All That Glitters and Emancipation, are smaller. I think I would like a part 2. So yeah, she talks about her musical direction, more into hip-hop and R&B, and how other genres are easy for her. She talks about her 2001 breakdown, some more family issues, some of her relationships and how those went. So yeah, she says there are no dream lovers. Then, you know, Emancipation, she talks about her comeback album, The Emancipation of Mimi, and her marriage to Nick Cannon, and having her twins. She talks about how she met Nick Cannon and how they hit it off, and then, you know, when she became pregnant, she says that Nick wasn't very supportive, like he didn't understand the hard time that she was having when she was pregnant with her twins. And yeah, we all know about Nick and all his baby mamas, so yeah. Then she ends with looking at the legacy she's left for her children and how they are not growing up poor or unnurtured as she did. So yeah, I give the book a 3 out of 5 stars. I feel like it could have been a bit more detailed. I feel like it could have been longer, and I feel like she could have went into her flaws and insecurities more, where she spends, you know, a good deal on that of others. It's kind of written more like a storybook to me, more than a memoir, especially at the beginning, but yeah, I didn't mind too much. To me, it reads of a bit of insecurity, like she hasn't been affirmed or something, as if she has a lack of support, as if she's been floundering a bit. Maybe mental health issues, some imbalanced statements and conclusions. I do see this a lot with people from unstable backgrounds, unstable families. They tend to exaggerate issues and make them seem worse off than they really are because they don't get the support that they need. They don't look at where they could have went wrong or where they could improve because they already feel like they have everyone go against them or undermine them and not understand the issues that they have. So then they make it out to be worse in an attempt to get some of the attention or support that they feel like they're lacking. You know, sometimes it's hard for people to put themselves in others' shoes, and then they make light of someone's issues when it really could be something that's really affecting that person. That just makes it, you know, worse for that person. It makes it harder for them to, you know, resolve their issue and move on. And sometimes a person will have issues or problems in their life and they'll focus on something that doesn't seem that significant, like Mariah focusing on, you know, not growing up in a big house, when the real problems are like something deeper than that. But this is just the thing that's coming to the surface, like an insecurity thing. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about more of these sorts of things and these sorts of issues related to biracials. But yeah, Mariah's experience is not an uncommon one. And yeah, I'm going to be examining these sorts of things. So yeah, if you got this far, I know this was long-winded, but yeah, I had a lot of points I wanted to make. I had a lot of things that I wanted to talk about. But yeah, Mariah Carey is definitely one of the greatest voices to ever grace the earth. One of my favorite artists. You know, she's a one and only Mariah Carey. Yeah, she had a vocal decline in probably like 1997, probably due to the stress from her divorce, from her overbearing marriage, you know, heartbreaks. You know, she got into an unhealthy lifestyle, alcohol and such, lost some of her focus, it seems, lost some of her passion for singing through all that she's been through. You know, she seemed a little bit detached from when she first started out. And, you know, maybe it gets old, you know, singing the same hits over and over, having the same career for 30 plus years, you know. But yeah, I did really enjoy Mariah's book. It was good hearing her stories. I'm sure many out there related. Mariah is definitely an intriguing woman, and yeah, she's definitely one of the most intriguing celebrities to me. So yeah.